Hello and welcome back, everyone. I appreciate it's been quite a number of weeks. So thank you for everyone who's returning, who's still remembering that we do this on a Sunday. Obviously, I've been traveling and doing various things with the NCD Alliance Global Forum out in Rwanda in Kigali, which was an amazing experience. But obviously, there was a lot of travel and a lot of spoons used in the process of doing that. So yeah, we've not been here for a couple of weeks. So thank you for everyone who's come back. Welcome in, Rake. Welcome in, Nia. Welcome in, Sai. It's just nice and early. Yes, indeed. So we're here for Rare Disease Day. Obviously, that fell on Friday, but we do the Chronic Pain Club on a Sunday. So today is Rare Disease Day special. So thank you for everyone who's turned up for this. We'll be talking about that with our guest tonight. And also, I'm so glad when they let me know this, that because of the time zone differences and everything, they would have been joining us after midnight at the usual Chronic Pain Club slot, and that felt very unfair, especially for a chronic illness live talk show and podcast. Like, if I'm inflicting pain on my guests, then that doesn't feel like a good look. So we brought it forward, and I guess the question's there, guys. If you prefer a Sunday afternoon, Sunday tea time. In the past, people have asked about midweeks, doing it then. Let me know in chat. I'm all ears. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this back at a later date. So we ultimately started this as a peer support community. So it was always on a Sunday night because the idea was that we were... I guess, people worry on a Sunday night, people have got concerns with long-term health conditions and stuff like that, or mental health. People worry about going to work the next day or what the new week might bring. So the whole idea was that we turned up on a Sunday night for 1 hour or so to try and give people a bit of a break from whatever it was that they were dealing with. So that's why it's traditionally been 7 till 8 on a Sunday, but it doesn't have to stay that way. So if it allows us to reach more guests, a wider international audience, it's never a time that sort of had any other thinking behind it other than, you know what, I really struggle on a Sunday evening as a person with a long-term health condition. I worry about what I'm going to wake up like tomorrow. I wonder what tomorrow's going to look like. I worry about what my week is going to be like. So ultimately, it helps me forget about that for an hour, because whilst I'm doing this and uncomfortably hosting a live talk show, which I never foresaw myself doing, I'm not thinking about that. It was a distraction. So that's why we do it. If people would prefer the earlier time, let me know. The other reason I've toyed with it in the past have changed it as well, because it can hang over me a little bit at weekends. I when you're passionate about something, you care about it, you probably worry about it a bit too much. I do have a habit of letting it affect my Sundays, so if I'm with my son, it's in the back of my mind. Have I prepared everything? What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? So I have toyed in the past about moving it to a Monday night and doing it at the start of the week, because I'll be working all day and won't be thinking like that. And then we can just do it. So let me know in the chat, guys. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this back. That'd be great. And I will take that on board. Welcome in, Aidan. Usual drill, guys. If anyone wants to tell us where they're watching from, that'd be amazing. We're going out live on multiple platforms. So at the minute, you can talk to everyone. You can see it all on screen. You see most people here are on YouTube, but we are also going out on LinkedIn and Facebook, and it might have been shared elsewhere. I don't always have control over where it gets shared. But in a minute, when we bring the guest on, the chat will go off from the screen, and you'll be able to carry on that conversation amongst the people you're watching on that platform with. So if you want to carry on chatting, I recommend you head over to us on YouTube. It's Joel versus Arthritis. You can see it down there on my name, wrong side, Joel, that side. And then that way you can keep talking to people when the chat is off screen. If you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, please do keep the comments coming, because we will feature the best ones. We try to pop stuff up on screen as little prompts, thinking just to get the cogs going and everything, and remind you that there is still a chat behind what's going on screen. But also, the usual reminder from me, we are, first and foremost, guys, a peer support community. I want you to connect. I want you to support each other. I want you to talk. It doesn't matter if what you're talking about in chat has nothing to do with the conversation between myself and a guest on a given night. We won't be offended. We are here to raise awareness, share lived experience, and provide peer support. So we're here for Rare Disease Day today. It's easier. So you can tell I've been out of action for a couple of weeks. So you could be talking about all sorts of rare diseases in chat. It doesn't matter that it's not linked to what we're talking about on screen. We will not be offended. We're ultimately here to amplify lived experiences. So if you've got something you want to share in chat, if you want to lean on this awesome community, people like Sai and Nee and Aiden are here every week. And more than happy to try and signpost and point you in the right direction. We're not medical professionals. We never claim to be. We can't help you with that sort of thing, but we can help you feel heard and point you in the right direction. So I think with that, that's probably enough said. So hopefully you're all ready to. Well, hi Dad, that's throwing me. Sorry, Dylan's on YouTube chat. Hello, Dylan. I should probably say hello. Dylan, I don't think he's ever seen one of these because he's always in bed. So as this is the first one we've done before 7 o'clock, Dylan gets to watch. So hello, Dylan. So with that little personal matter dealt with, I will get our guest in. So usual drill, guys. We'll turn the music off. And we will take the chat off screen, but please do know that obviously we can still see your messages. We'll feature the best ones, etc., etc. But yeah, so tonight, if I need to find my notes, I have a week out in Africa, 2 weeks recouping, and suddenly my brain is like totally lost the plot when it comes to hosting. So tonight, I am delighted to be joined by Clarinda Cerejo, who, well, amongst other things, is the co-host of the podcast Not Just Patients, EUPATI Fellow, India Ambassador of the Sumaira Foundation, and the founding member of the Global Patient Advocacy Coalition for Headache. Clarinda, thank you so much for joining me and giving up your time on this Sunday. How are you?
It's so lovely to be here, Joel, and it's really exciting to see all these chat comments and so many people having joined us. I can tell everyone that I did not get any dress code memo, but I just happened to show up in these lovely matching colors. So I feel
Yes.
really good about that. I think we're going to be in sync today.
Yeah, there's very much a coincidence, but it fits in with the aesthetics perfectly for anyone that's watching it. So thank you so much. So I know it's pretty late where you are, so thank you so much, and thank you for being flexible and joining us on what would be sort of an earlier than normal slot for the live show. For anyone that's obviously. You a whole host of titles there, but maybe do you want to give people a bit of a flavour of who Clarinda is, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, sure. So I live in Mumbai, India. It's 9:30 p.m. here, and I was hearing that your son has joined, and well, my daughter is 4 and she's well in bed. So, which is also why it's nice and quiet here, and I got a chance to do this uh, all to myself. Well, so that's also a little bit about me. I am a patient advocate. I live with a rare disease called neuromyelitis optica spectrum disorder, or NMO, and we're just out of Rare Disease Month. We celebrated Rare Disease Day on Friday, and we're actually celebrating NMO Awareness Month in March. So we're pretty much right between the 2 months that I celebrate the most as a patient advocate. So it's perfect for me to be here at this time. Um, yeah, that's about that's about my patient advocacy. But apart from that, my background has been in science communication and medical communication professionally.
Okay.
And after several years, 16 plus years doing that sort of work, I went on an introspective journey about where I wanted my career to head, the direction that I wanted it to take. And I had been living with this rare disease called NMO for several years, and it was a part of my life that I never really brought into my professional life at all, because I had this power woman kind of persona about myself, and I prided myself on working through hospitalizations and with drips in my hands and things like that. And very few people in my professional setup had to really know about anything in my personal life on my medical front. And it's not something that I very intentionally hid per se, but people very close to me at work who had to know, and that was fine. But for the most part, no one really needed to know. But when I went on this journey of where I wanted to go with my life, it just made so much sense that my research background, my lived experience were kind of all coming together and pushing me so strongly towards patient engagement and patient advocacy. Because what really got me through some of my toughest times as a patient was my reliance on research. I used to take stacks of research papers into my doctor's appointments and, ask to be spoken to as somebody who understood that. And I realized, and there were, of course, doctors who completely dismissed that approach and were very, dismissive. Um, but then the one doctor who changed my life and who I think of very fondly and has now become a friend, is this one neurologist who chose to take those stacks of research papers and sit down with me and draw things out on a whiteboard and explain to me why this drug and why not this drug and all of that. And then I didn't realize it at the time, but when I decided to become a patient advocate, I felt really strongly that that's something that a lot of patients don't have, and especially in India, that gap is huge when it comes to health literacy. So yeah, so that's what led me here, and since then I went on a journey educating myself. I did the EUPATI Patient Expert Training Program.
Yeah.
I'm in the podcast, Not Just Patients, which I co-host with another patient who lives with cystic fibrosis, Caitlin Rich, who lives in London.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's where I am now.
No, I love that because you're so right. Like for me, I feel like I've achieved a decent amount on my advocacy journey, but research has always been this big blind spot for me. I'm actually in the
Mm.
current cohort for the UPATI
Oh, that's great.
program to, I'm just trying to fill that gap because yeah, I'm the same, and I can't imagine how powerful that must be to have that in your arsenal because it must shape them
Mm.
conversations with medical professionals must take a different direction than maybe how I could speak to them.
Yeah, I mean it does. You could say that I approach those conversations differently, but sadly their response is not always the same as I would expect it to be or I
Yeah.
would like it to be, because they are used to speaking to patients a certain way. And honestly, it is one out of every 10 doctors that I will speak to who will have the time or the inclination to meet me where I am and really choose to talk to me as somebody who understands the research. And to be fair, or I mean, ironically, not a lot of doctors are necessarily even in touch with the research themselves, because it's only the ones who are actually research practitioners or involved in
Mhm.
clinical research as well, who are who are as attuned to everything that's going on in the research. So so yeah, they might not always know, and they might not always have the time, or they might not have the skills to have those conversations. And I don't condone it. I think that there is a long way to go, and I don't I mean I definitely think that that should be a direction that the whole medical system should be taking, that is more towards shared decision making. But I see why it doesn't happen, or why it doesn't always happen the way that it should.
Yeah. No, and maybe we'll come back to that a little bit more of the advocacy specific stuff. 'Cause, yeah, I got a few personal questions as well. I'd love to ask just from my own selfish point of view. But
Sure.
we've had people on the show with forms of myelitis, things in that sort of family before, but we've not, and I'm going to try and not butcher this, but neuromyelitis optica spectrum disorder.
Mhm.
You're the first person we've had with that specifically. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what that is, what it looks like, and maybe
Sure.
what your sort of early experiences with it were.
Yeah, sure. So like you said, it's called neuromyelitis optica spectrum disorder, shortened as NMO or NMOSD. Um, Broadly, it affects the central nervous system, including the optic nerves, the spinal cord, by and large, and it could manifest as vision loss, loss of sensation, motor function. It has a very wide range of symptoms, and yeah, basically it could affect various different parts of your body in different ways. So I'll start by telling you my story, and then talk a little bit about how it can affect different people.
Please.
So I was 25. I was on my way for a picnic. With It was a company picnic, and I was feeling an itch at the back of my neck, and I was asking the person sitting next to me to check if I'm getting a rash or something. And they were looking and they were like, "No, I don't see anything there." And that's when it started. And it was just this rash that nobody could see. It felt like a rash, but nobody could see anything. There was just an itch. It went on for about 3 weeks. And but yeah, just stayed like an itch at the back of my neck that nobody could see, and I kept putting calamine lotion and things like that. Nothing was working, and nobody could see anything there. um then very rapidly, over the span of 5 days, things like a single strand of hair on my neck felt excruciating. I had
Oh,
to
wow.
put all my hair up, and I could not bear the it was extremely painful to have a strand of hair on my neck. I began to lose sensation in my arm completely. It was very difficult for me to lift my bag or anything pretty much with my left arm. When I was having a shower, the water started feeling cold on one side of my body and hot on the
Mhm.
other side. Um and and then my mother figured that this has to be neurological, and then we went to a neurologist, and who did some tests, and he said this looks serious, and I have reason to believe that there is that this looks like acute demyelination of the spinal cord, which is something that happens in multiple sclerosis,
Yes. Yeah.
and that I needed to be hospitalized, and I needed to get an MRI immediately. So I got an MRI the very next day, and it showed acute demyelination of the spinal cord. And I was admitted. I had high dose corticosteroid injections over 5-10 days, and then physiotherapy over a month. I just to like regain my fine motor. So I had my left arm was paralyzed for all practical purposes. I remember one occasion in the hospital when I was asleep, and I woke up. I opened my eyes to see who was touching my face, and it was my hand on my face, my
Oh,
own
wow.
hand. I had no idea that it was my hand on my face. It was bizarre. Yeah, so yeah, within a month of treatment, just steroid treatment, I recovered completely
Oh, wow.
and went back to my usual life. And there was no diagnosis because I was told that um we need to wait and see if it recurs, and only then we can know. And then the next year, the first one was in 2009. The next year in 2010, this was September 2009, then October 2010, I began to have weird sensations around the thoracic region of my back, just hypersensitivity. And that turned out to be another episode. So basically the MRI just shows lesions along the spinal cord. And so it took me 3 episodes, and then I had a diagnosis. In 2011 I was diagnosed. And so and then I've been on immunosuppression is essentially the treatment.
Yeah.
Now there are there is no cure. It is something to be managed by and large. But now there are three approved disease modifying treatments that have been approved in Europe and the US. But basically, I am still by and large on the mild end of the spectrum, and otherwise the disease can, and I never had an optic nerve, so I never had any eye related symptoms. But for a lot of people it starts with blindness or like eye pain, and it can
Wow.
be loss of vision in one or both eyes. It can be bladder or bowel related dysfunction. It can be any kind of paralysis of either both or multiple limbs, um forelimbs, I mean, yeah, quadriplegia even. It can be like, so basically it can have very very severe case. You have very very severe cases as well. Prompt diagnosis and getting on immunosuppressants is usually the best way to manage it. And usually people, like by and large, people who are promptly diagnosed and put on immunosuppression tend to do well. And a lot of people, so when I was first diagnosed, now I have a great community. I'm an ambassador of this community called the Sumaira Foundation. Sumaira is a wonderful, wonderful lady of Bangladeshi origin who has started a foundation that's Boston based and is global. um, and it was wonderful when I met her a couple of years ago, because for the first 13 years of living with this, I had not met another patient. And it was like finding home in this community.
Yeah.
But the first time I looked it up, it said that everything that I read said that patients will either find themselves in a wheelchair or dead within 5 years. So treatment and prognosis have really, really come a long way since then.
Yeah.
I'm neither of those things right now. I live a pretty full life, I think, and yeah. So
But yeah, mild case or not, that must have been terrifying for you. Those sensations
definitely,
and not knowing
yeah,
where it was going to end, I suppose.
yeah. I think that like with any chronic diagnosis, and especially for one that hits you in early adulthood, it's, you feel like your world comes crashing down. You feel like all your plans for life are stalled, and you don't know what to make of any of that, and how you're gonna pick up the pieces and what happens next. um by and large, I've kind of been a very very optimistic person. I've kind of had that outlook in general, so I've not really I've been able to see the positive side of things in general. And also I think that my yeah, I think that my I'm a very practical sort of person as well. So I am able to just take things as they come and be very rational and practical about it. So why, even while I'm talking to my doctors, there's this very scientific mind kind of thing that's coming into play. Of course I have these moments where it's all like, oh, this cannot be happening, and I let myself go through those as well. I think what was most difficult at that time was really not finding that community when I needed that, which is why I really feel that need to be part of that community now, and to be able to give back to a lot of new patients who are going through this now. I think that was one of the most difficult things for me. But apart from that, the fact that I didn't have, and once I got on my treatment, my immunosuppression in 2011, I've had a really good run, and I've been well. I've had,
Mhm.
I've ironically, I've had a really good run with the neuro side of things, but I've reacted really badly to the treatments. So I've
Okay.
developed chronic arthritis because of steroid use and things like that. So I have a lot of the other side effects,
Yeah.
but I feel like those are much more manageable than the rare disease itself. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with
It's
I'm
hard.
okay with that trade-off.
It's hard to keep that perspective, isn't it, of bigger picture? Like the amount of
Hmm.
conversations, particularly with employers and things over the years, where people have questioned why I'm taking immunosuppressants or biologics, and they're
Hmm.
always make you ill. Yeah, but trying to explain, yeah, but I was in a wheelchair before them, so I will
Exactly. Yeah.
happily get chest
Right.
infections and side effects. But yeah, it's all part of the education, I suppose. And I just want to touch upon, because you mentioned community a couple of times there, and it's so important. It's why we're here on a Sunday as much as we can be. It's why we
Hmm.
do other things
Yeah.
in this community, because like, to try and get between the appointments. Um, and and for some people it can quite hard to find that community, but when you do, it's like empowering, isn't it? I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that, but I know for me, I wouldn't be here talking to you today if it
Hmm.
wasn't for the power of that community, and probably it's the same for you, I imagine.
Yeah, very much so. I think I'm very much a people person. I think you can tell. Yeah, so just being able to reach out. I wouldn't say that, and I've had this same conversation with a lot of patient advocates. It takes a lot out of you
Mhm.
because it is heartbreaking at times that in many cases there's not a lot that you can do. You 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 do everything that you can and it's just not enough in many cases, and or in many cases you just don't have enough to give because you just have to give that what's left of you for yourself. You have to retain that for yourself.
Yeah.
So there's all of those elements, but yeah, as a people person, I think that the community that I get in patient advocacy is really special. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it certainly gets me to do things I never thought I was capable of, or brave enough to do, with the power of that community, which probably brings us nicely onto the podcast. And I'd love to
Hmm.
hear more about how that started, and yeah, just give you the open space to tell people more about it.
Thanks, Joel, for bringing that up. So it's funny that you say things that you never expected to do. I have a friend who is a writer, and he keeps saying that he is kind of stopped reading, and he says, "How dare I call myself a writer if I don't read?" And when I decided to start the podcast, I had this feeling of how dare I call myself a podcaster if I don't listen to podcasts. And I really, it was no, I'm not really an audio learner. I'm much more of a visual learner. And I would try, but I would kind of find myself switching off during podcasts. So I don't know why I felt like starting a podcast because it did not make sense. I mean, on paper, it did not make sense. But so I did the EUPATI course and I met Caitlin there. We would have spoken for probably 10 minutes over the course of 4 days. But after I came back, we met in October. After I came back in November, I was thinking, okay, I want to do something now. I have this certification. What do I do next with this? And so yeah, just thinking about what I want to do in terms of taking forward the learning, building my profile, and I s- it just like a light bulb. I want to start a podcast with Caitlin. And none of it made sense, to be honest, because I did not know Caitlin much. I had hardly spoken to her, but just from the way that she spoke during the conference, not specifically to me, but at the conference, and I just felt like there's some connection there. It might
Yeah.
work. And and I just thought that I don't think there's a podcast in this space, and podcasts are the thing these days, even though they're not my thing, all of that. So I literally just asked her, you know what, do you want to start a podcast with me? And um, she said something like, you're the third person who's asked me to start a podcast with them. And I said, what? not on patient engagement, but she had been asked before, and she said, yeah, I want to do this. And so we did. It was crazy. But she's in London, I'm in India, I'm in Mumbai, but we just made it work. We had that first conversation in November 23, after having met in October 23, and then April 24 on World Health Day, we launched Not Just
I
Patients.
love that.
And we had to do, like, learn everything from what do you use to record, what do you use to edit. We do everything ourselves. Even now, we both have our own full-time jobs.
I can relate to that learning
um
curve, and for anyone who hasn't experienced it, it is a mountain. So
exactly.
well done.
Yeah, and we've just been extremely heartened and encouraged by the feedback, the reception, the guests. Everyone's been great. People have been really excited to come on, and that's been very encouraging as well. And then people have been very excited to listen, to share. They've been really, it's been overwhelming, the feedback, and we really want to keep going. We do need, and I've not even taken her permission to put this out there right now. She's on holiday, so I'm going to take the chance. She's on
Go
holiday
for
without network, so she can get back at me if she wants to. But we are going to be looking out for some kind of intern editor, because it is getting
Yeah.
like an intern to do to help us with some stuff. So if anyone's listening, guys, I'm already putting feelers out there, uh,
I'm sure there will
without
be.
Caitlin's permission right now, but
I
but
that that's I've been overwhelmed by the amount of people that are willing to help with these projects that you find yourself like thrown into. Like, so much of what you saying I can relate to. Like, you were laughing about you don't listen to podcasts, and now you're hosting a podcast. I
yeah.
now sit on Twitch 2 or 3 times a week playing
Ah,
farming games to a group of men talking about mental health that I never thought I would do ever.
wow.
But like I say, this stuff forces you down avenues you never thought you had the confidence to go down. I think, well, you're clearly a very good talker and a people person. I think you're made to host podcasts, Clarinda. So it was just finding your purpose, I think. So but I'm sure you'll get lots of offers to help.
I hope so.
But so yeah, so and I also want to touch on a little bit there. You said about how you met, and as someone who's just recently been through that, I was at the NCD Alliance global forum, and there are just some people, aren't there, in this advocacy space, they just have this, there's just something about them, the way they talk, and and I can think of 3 or 4 people I met there that I just know I have to do something with. I have to. They're too
Hmm.
important. They're too special. They speak too well. They deliver the message too well. And I think having those people in the advocacy space as your own peer support and friends, it's really important, isn't it? Because we do carry a burden when we're doing this work, and the stories
Yeah,
of others. And yeah, how
yeah,
important is that to have found somebody who's that sort of common interest and
yeah, yeah.
passion?
Yeah, and I think that what was really surprising was that, fine, it we connected great, but what was surprising was that we had similar working styles, in the sense of similar quality standards, because that would have been really tricky for me to say, you know what, this is crap, I don't want to work with you anymore. You're not editing this right. I can't do this with you. But yeah, we had similar quality standards. We've been able to have tough conversations with each other, because that I really need you to pull your weight here, or even those kind of things. We've been able to say, I really don't have time for this right now, and all of those things. I should talk a little bit about the podcast itself.
Yes,
So
please.
basically, it's a patient engagement podcast. It aims to break barriers to meaningful patient involvement in healthcare. And what we mean is that we have guests who cover the entire healthcare spectrum. So we talk to all kinds of stakeholders. Basically, we've talked to somebody from the publication world, somebody who is a practicing clinician. We've talked to people from the pharma world. We've talked to someone who's involved in health technology assessment, someone from the digital health space. So essentially anybody, we're trying to talk to anybody who's involved in healthcare and understand how patients can be more involved, what are the barriers and opportunities, and essentially try and open up patients' minds and worldviews to the possibilities that there are, and open the worldview of stakeholders to allow patients to be more involved and see the value in that. So we hope
Oh,
that we
yeah.
can, yeah,
I love
make
that.
that a more
We're
inclusive
we're
world.
all about co-production and
Yeah.
yeah, and patients as partners here. It's a regular theme on the show. So thank you for mentioning that. And also, like, what we have found by sharing these experiences over the years is, unfortunately, it only takes one person to have a bad experience. So somebody maybe doesn't handle that
Yeah.
involvement and patient engagement very well, and then that really important voice is gone. They maybe don't put their hand up again and get
Exactly.
involved. So yeah, I think what you're doing is really important. I suppose I should probably say at this point, if anyone wanted to get involved, help, support, the editing thing you mentioned, but maybe as a guest or whatever, what's the best way for them to get in touch? I am putting up on screen for anyone watching this live the link to the website, but is there any other ways to get in touch?
So, yeah, you can write to us at info@notjustpatients.com.
Yeah,
And yeah, the website, I think Joe's already put up the website. And we're
brilliant.
also on LinkedIn. We're also on LinkedIn as Not Just Patients.
Superb, thank you. So I suppose we seem to have covered a lot on time as flying by. So I feel like we should probably touch a little bit on. So we've talked about your advocacy, talked about your personal experience, and the podcast and everything. Obviously, we are doing this live at a very particular time. It's almost like I plan these things. A lot of the regulars will think I don't plan these things, but the fact that we've just had rare disease down, I believe March is also NMO Awareness Month. So
Mhm.
I want to give you the opportunity to talk about the importance of those sort of awareness events and also how people can get involved as well.
Yeah, I think that for rare diseases, it's all about awareness, really, because, like I said, when I was diagnosed, there was no awareness, and the prognosis looked so bleak based on almost no research, no information. Then it started with a small group that kind of grew and grew and grew. And when those numbers add up, so in fact, recent Not Just Patients podcast episode that was just released is on rare disease research, and it just talks about the numbers, that it's a numbers game, and how once you start having those numbers, which can be formed by patient communities finding each other, or rather patients finding each other and forming those communities, then you can build numbers to get data for research to happen. And once research happens, then it's possible for treatments to be discovered. It's possible for those rare diseases to actually find hope, and those patients to have a chance of a new life. And all of that starts with awareness. So I think that the importance cannot be overstated of awareness, and it just starts with awareness. And how can people be involved? I think just do whatever is comfortable. And I spoke at a conference of neurologists, and I spoke about the power of patient advocacy there. And one of the things I said was, you can go as big or as small as you want. You can just share someone else's work. It can literally be a repost. It can literally, and that is advocacy. You need not start a podcast to say
You
that
know,
you're doing
I need to reinvent the
advocacy.
wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can just be a repost. It can be um it can be a talk if you're comfortable with that. It can be a piece of writing if you're comfortable with that. It can be speaking to somebody if you're comfortable with that. I spoke to another advocate, actually, who's in your cohort, I believe. Shalya, I think Shalya Anand. I
Okay.
don't know. I think she's in your cohort.
Okay, I haven't
Um,
met all of the 130
oh
or
yeah,
whatever it is you have met.
because
I'm getting there.
or maybe she's in the previous one. I'm not sure. But anyway, I just spoke to someone from EUPATI, and she's an oral care advocate, and she asked me, she's going to be very proud of me. But she said, if all you can do is anybody you speak to, if you can just leave them saying, just remember oral care as well,
Yeah.
as as a one liner. And she's going to be very proud that I'm saying this on your podcast now. But basically it's just that it can just like that is awareness. Right now all of you are going to be probably flossing tonight because I said that. But yeah, and that's all it takes. So that's all it takes really. So awareness is whatever you're comfortable with
Yeah,
doing to support it, the cause.
that's really true. And that whole, it doesn't have to be grad. We've heard that on here before, where I think people, because there are people doing amazing things. What you and your colleagues doing is amazing, and there's so many people like in that EUPATI space doing amazing things, and I think it can get quite overwhelming for people that want to get involved and want to share their story and get involved and use lived experience to raise awareness. That the
Mhm.
bar for some is like seen as very high, but it doesn't. Just literally
Right.
sharing your story. Just, I don't know. I said to somebody once, even if that is just turning to that friend that you've known for years and you've never told them how you're feeling, that can start a domino effect that has a really big impact. I've got friends that I've known since I was a teenager, and I had very obvious mobility challenges. And then because I stopped talking about it, everyone assumes
Mm,
you haven't got those
you're
problems
fine.
anymore.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
kind of on me. And then, you sort of sometimes think, well, why didn't people support me when I was struggling? Well, I never told anyone I was struggling. So
yeah.
sometimes just a simple conversation can start a ball rolling. So I think that's a really strong message. So thank you for sharing that. I have got to this has been amazing. Like this has been a very easy, relaxed conversation. So thank you for sharing so much, Clarinda. And I'd love to maybe have you back or see if we could do more to support what you're doing with the podcast. So yeah, give that a thought and let me know if there's anything we do over here on Chronic Pain Club or with our sort of shared interest in advocacy. That'd be amazing. But if I just want to give you the opportunity before I let you go, because I appreciate it's getting late there, and and it is a Sunday. Is there anything you want to share? Anything you're working on? Anywhere you want to tell people where they can find you? This is basically your opportunity.
This is where I'm not very good.
I'm not great. I don't do the whole self promotion thing.
um, yeah, I can't think of something specific, but I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach me on LinkedIn. That's pretty much my jam. I don't use the other social media channels very well, but I'm always up for a conversation. So feel free to reach out. One piece of work that I'm very proud of that I did last year was a publication on the patient journey, the emotional aspect of the patient journey.
Mhm.
That I don't know. Can I put a link somewhere?
Yeah, or if you want to pop it in the private chat, I can paste it into if you've not got the YouTube open, I can do that.
I can just in a second. Yeah, so
And as,
that's a journal paper that I wrote as a single author. It's my first patient author publication as a single author in a journal on the emotional aspect of the patient journey. So I'd love for your listeners to take a look at that. Another project, actually a pretty big project that I'm involved in, is setting up as a new non-profit. It's been an entity all this time, the
Mhm.
Global Patient Advocacy Coalition for headache. It's just being in the process of being registered as a non-profit. So I'm one of the founding members there. I live with chronic migraine since well, not chronic, episodic migraine since I was 17. And so this is an organization that serves for advocacy towards headache and migraine. So that's another thing that people are welcome to check out. And do check out our podcast as well. And if you're interested in helping us edit and do other stuff and other cool stuff, then please reach out.
See, you're brilliant at it. You're brilliant at it. There's lots there. So, for anyone that's watching this live, the link to that article or paper is in chat. The link to the Not Just Patients website is also in chat. And if you're listening to this back on the podcast and it's not in the description for whatever reason, 3 or 4 months from now, I've forgotten to put it there, come over to YouTube and the chat on the live show. We have a dedicated playlist called the Rerun, which is all of these live shows in full. So it's not just the interview, it's the whole thing, start to finish, warts and all. If I make mistakes, they're all in there, so you can all laugh at my expense. But if you go back and find the Rerun playlist on the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/JoelVersusArthritis, you will be able to see the live chat replayed in there and get the links from there. Clarinda, thank you so much for giving up your time this Sunday, which I know has been a busy few days for you with Rare Disease Day on Friday, and obviously as we now enter the awareness month as well for your condition. I really appreciate it. I know it's late, and thank you for being flexible and working with me on the time so we could try and get it to a sort of more sociable and reasonable hour, and I hope I haven't taken up too many of your spoons.
Thank you so much, Joel. Thank you. It's been lovely. And thanks everyone for listening. This has been lovely.
Brilliant. Well, you're welcome back anytime. Yeah, like I say, let me know if we can help more and keep doing amazing things, because I need people like you. I would have quit a long time ago if I didn't have people like you to remind me why we're doing it, but also that it can be a challenge, and it's good that we're open and honest about that. So thank you for sharing and giving us that insight. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak soon, Clarinda. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll just bring chat back up on screen. Let me get some background music going because I hate the sound of my own voice. And thank you so much for joining, guys. Let me just I'll pop any messages that are coming in that I missed up on screen so that our guests can see those. That was lovely, and I genuinely mean that. I would not be doing this here on a Sunday, one, without you guys as the community drives us and empowers us and somehow gives us this strength we didn't know we had to do things like our own talk show. Like it sounds mad when I say that. It still sounds, I've been doing this 2 or 3 years now, and it still sounds mad. Every time when I turn on the camera at the start of these, I'm terrified. I don't think I'm ever going to lose that, but I do it because I know you guys, like your Laurens and your Aidens and your Sais and all the people we see come in every week are going to be here and get something from it. But also, the minute we go offline, we then get hundreds of views on these reruns. So we don't necessarily get people join us live. It might not be convenient time, etc. But we get so many people benefit. And I think a really good example of that, or 2 videos spring to mind, is when Kevin Gibbons joined us to talk about multiple sclerosis. I don't recall that being like a really big live show, but it's gone on to have hundreds and hundreds of views. I've had loads of messages about that, asking for signposting off the back of that video. And also when we done the video about when Tracy joined us, wonderful Tracy, and her art talking about antiphospholipid syndrome. I'm still impressed I can still pronounce that correctly. That's another one that's just gone on to get so many views, and the clips and the things we've done off the back of that. So it's really important that we do this. We don't just show up for the community that joins us to talk live. It's for the people it reaches that helps them get the support, information, or whatever signposting that they need. So I wouldn't be able to do any of this if it wasn't for people like Clarinda and others that remind me what we're doing. So the community plus other advocates makes you do amazing things. I wouldn't have got on a plane to Africa. You all know that. Those of you that know me well, that particularly follow me over on Twitch and know that I've been struggling of late. I've been very open about that over on Twitch. Will know that I was never getting on that plane without knowing it was important to some of you guys, or important that we had the patient voice there, and I took that opportunity, etc. So thank you for bearing with us while we took a bit of a break over the last couple of weeks. You all know why, like I say, with that trip. I'm also sad to say this was going to be a 2-hour special show. Unfortunately, our friends from RACC are not able to join us tonight through various reasons. There's some technical issues as well. And, you know, we're a chronic illness show. It's not for me to put pressure on anyone. If somebody says they can't do it, or I even get a little hint that it might be inconvenient for people, I'll always try and give them an out. Clarinda would have had a message from me earlier today where basically I opened the door a little bit to say to people, like, if you need a break, so I know they'd been struggling with a cough, which by the way we didn't hear at all, so Clarinda done amazingly because they haven't been 100%, so I'm so glad their voice held up. But yeah, we're a chronic illness show. Sometimes I get sick and have to cancel. Sometimes the guest gets sick and have to cancel. Sometimes life happens and they can't join us. So we won't, you know, we won't apologize for that. We won't ever change if things get cancelled at short notice, because I imagine 99% of the people watching this from a chronic illness background knows exactly what that feels like. And if I added to that pressure that we feel, that guilt we feel when we have to cancel, then I'm part of the problem. So unfortunately, the show will not be going on for 2 hours tonight. It was just the one guest and the 1 hour. I really appreciate everybody that got involved, offered to help with this Rare Disease Day special. And maybe if I hadn't gone to Africa 2 weeks beforehand, I'd have had more spoons to line up a bigger thing, but I'm probably glad I didn't, because you all know me, I tend to not know when to stop, and these turn into some 8-hour live day marathon thing. So that hasn't happened this time, thankfully. So I think I've done well at pacing and limiting myself. For anyone that wants to know more, I don't know if I have a thing for my socials. Do I have a thing for my socials? Yes, I do. So if you want to get involved either on the Discord server where you can hang out with these people during the week to get peer support, you want to join us on the Twitch live streams where we use gaming as a way of escapism and distraction, and to basically try and get people to open up. We're getting loads of men joining us and talking about their mental health, which is amazing. That's never happened for me. So, you know, our demographic has mostly been female. So for us to get lots of men joining us over on Twitch, we're currently using a game called Farming Simulator as a bit of a vehicle to make that happen and to broaden the demographic. So that feels really special. If you want to know about the podcast, which is basically all of these interviews, but wrapped up into an audible format. If you listen while, like I do, I listen to podcasts when I walk the dog and everything. So it's all about trying to reach people where they are. So if you're using gaming, we've got a place for that. If you like podcasts, we've got a podcast for that. If you like, it sounds like some terrible Apple advert. If you do YouTube and video, then here we are. And if anyone could think of any other ways, like I can't say I've got the capacity to keep adding to that list. We have closed off some things to try and make a bit more space, especially as Thoracic Disease UK, our new this very community founded UK charity takes off. We're making space. But there is other things coming with that, by the way, guys. So if you are not aware of the charity, I don't think I have a link for it yet, because I'm always conscious I don't want to spam you with all the stuff I'm doing outside of here. But Thoracic Disease UK, we have our own Discord channel, Discord server, sorry. And starting on this Wednesday, we will have our first ever hangout. The idea is the first Wednesday of every month, we just create a space, be like we create a space here. We create a space for people to basically hang out in voice chat. So the first one's going to be Meet the Team, and it's basically going to be all the trustees talking about their lived experiences, why we founded the charity, what our plans are, etc. But going forward, we would like it to be ones where we open the floor and other people can share their lived experience, because in case you haven't noticed, I'm quite keen on using the platform I've been fortunate enough to get to share as many stories as possible. It's why we do the Chronic Pain Club, and I want to do that with a charity as well. I've typed this in a rush, so if this doesn't work, can somebody let me know? But there's a link there in chat if you want to join the new charities Discord server, where on Wednesday we'll be doing our first hangout event, and that'll be on the first Wednesday of every month going forwards. And in time we'll get medical professionals and people like that, all that sort of thing. So you can find that there. But I think that's probably enough waffle for me, guys. Thank you for tolerating the changes. I hope you really enjoyed. I think Clarinda on their own more than held up the show. Didn't really need me. I could just like sat back and muted myself and let them talk about all the wonderful work they do, and we probably haven't even covered half of it. They're very modest, so maybe we get Clarinda back another time. That'd be amazing. It worked. Thank you, Lauren. That's brilliant. Guys, I will be next week. Where can you find me? You can find me on Twitch on Tuesday and Friday, and we'll also be back here on the Chronic Pain Club. This is where I should have had my notes open. I will be back here on the Chronic Pain Club on Sunday the 9th of March at the usual time. We're back to 7 o'clock, where Ella Balassa will be joining us, who is a superstar advocate. I cannot tell you how long this lady has been at the top of my feed every day doing something amazing for their community. So that an amazing speaker. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So join us next Sunday. If you haven't hit the follow button wherever you're watching this, please do. And if you haven't given the video a like yet, please do, because it really does help other people find us. Until next time, guys, enjoy what's left of your Sunday. I had to think about that then. Enjoy what's left of your Sunday, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.